This once as a tire store owner, nobody showed up. I really do appreciate you guys coming, and we have an exciting proposal. I think most of you are probably here not really knowing what you're here for, and I'm especially grateful for that. I've had a few people bump into me at different places over the last few weeks and say, hey, what's this thing all about? And I gave the condensed version, and people seem excited about it, so I'm grateful for that. And again, grateful for you being here. So, let me tell you a short story. I have some friends in the community who you will hear from later who have kind of been making me aware of a need for what they want to do in our community for a long time. That really started years ago. Was probably solidified the most when I was a commissioner candidate, trying to answer questions in local public forums about homelessness issues and drug and alcohol issues and those sorts of things. And since then, as an elected commissioner, one of the first things we do in our job is we kind of divide up all the duties in the county. And one of those duties for me was to be the liaison commissioner for the law enforcement segment of the county operation, which includes the sheriff's office and the jail and the district attorney's office and so on. And one of the duties that came along with that was I inherited a committee called the LIPSIC committee. And we use these acronyms in government. I know you hate them, but it helps us kind of shorten the conversation. The LIPSIC committee stands for the Local Public Safety Coordinating Council. And the LIPSIC committee is actually a committee that's mandated by the state of Oregon in order for us to have in our community. You see, a few years ago, the state of Oregon, because of the current prison population in the state, was in a position where they were going to be forced to invest some more money into prison capacity in the state of Oregon. And instead of doing that, they came up with a plan. That plan originally was titled House Bill 3194, and it was called the Justice Reinvestment Act. And what they did was they decided to give some of that money that they knew that they were going to have to invest in prison beds throughout the state back to local communities in order for local communities to implement programs in their communities, basically to reduce the number of folks that were sent into prison. Okay? So, along with that opportunity came the mandate for this committee. And the committee was originally formed and did some work and identified some areas where we could improve that situation in the county. But the committee really hadn't met in a few years before I took the commissioner's seat. So I had to resurrect this committee and start to look at the work that this committee had done in the past and identify some things that I thought we could help with in the future. That took me on a short road trip around Douglas County to meet with many of you folks who are in the room today. I met with people who are doing some of these services that we're going to talk about already. I met with folks from ADAPT, and I met with folks from UCAN, and I met with folks from the district attorney's office and the jail and the city police, and the list goes on and on. And what I found out was that there's already a lot of folks in the community that are doing this work, and I'm grateful for that. But I identified what I feel like are some gaps in this program, okay? And one of the things that I noticed first off was that the guys that work for us in the county jail are on a first name basis with a lot of these inmates, meaning that they see them over and over again. And the same folks who work with drug rehab locally know these folks personally because they work with them over and over again. And I also noticed that there seemed to be, in all of these efforts, the piece that took someone who had some success in treatment to get them back into the workforce to be a contributing member of society was missing. So oftentimes when these folks that we are trying to help get released from jail, or they get released from or graduate from their treatment program, they go right back to the community that they came from, right back to the house that they lived in, right back to the group of people that they were with before when they had a hard time staying out of trouble. So I started to identify some of these gaps. And then I started to understand, and you're gonna hear this statistic several times throughout the night, that almost every one of these folks that we have going through our local law enforcement and jail system have a drug-related or an alcohol-related or some sort of a dependency problem. And the actual statistic, and this is from 2012, is that 99.3% of all crime is related to an alcohol or drug dependency problem. That's about as close as 100% as you can get. So obviously there's a need for this. So I have a short disclaimer that I want to say first. You all know me as a Douglas County Commissioner. This proposal is not a proposal of Douglas County. The county really per se isn't even involved in it. I've invited you here tonight as Chris Boyce, and I'm glad you're here. I'm not saying that the county wouldn't be involved in this. I just want to make sure that I keep my personal stuff and my county stuff separate, okay? I'm not going to use my job as a county commissioner to promote something that I'm trying to do personally, and I don't want you to confuse the two. And so I want to be very clear about that up front, okay? So I'm going to go through some statistics for you here and share with you some of the things that I've learned in the last year and a half trying to figure out exactly what to do about this problem. So again, 99.3% of all crime seems to be related to a drug and alcohol dependency problem. U.S. drug-related deaths exceeded traffic deaths in 2008. So there's a chart, and I think we can get that up here real fast. The black line represents the number of deaths due to traffic accidents. The black line going up represents the number of deaths due to drug-related problems, and those two intersected in 2008. Alcohol is the #1 drug problem in America. Alcohol abuse is the 3rd leading cause of preventable death. You can read the slides, I'm not going to read them in detail. The number of men who abuse alcohol and drugs is 3 times greater than the number of women. The proposal that you're going to hear tonight is for, and I've said these words a lot of times in the last few months, so forgive me if they seem to sort of roll off the tongue, but it's a long-term, faith-based, inpatient drug and alcohol treatment facility that includes trauma counseling, helping people deal with the problems in their lives that they got into this place in the first place, and a return to the work piece. And my hope is that the folks who end up being treated successfully become a part of this program. And so I'm going to tell you a short story. I've been to a few meetings all around the state, and Joe Garcia, who's our parole and probation director over here, and I were at a meeting in Salem recently talking about justice reinvestment and trying to learn about what was working in other places. And as soon as we walked in the room, it was very similar to walking in the room here tonight. There's a room full of people meandering around, visiting with each other. As soon as they took their seats, I noticed off to my right, I don't know if you ever have done this, but you walk into a room and there's sometimes just a person or two that really stands out in the crowd. And there was one of those in this meeting, and it was a young man. He was wearing a nice white crest shirt. He had a nice clean haircut. He's wearing black rimmed glasses. I can still see him today. Black slacks. And something about that guy just made me feel like, you know, that guy's got something going on. Something special about that guy. So come to find out, this is a guy who in his teenage years got involved with drugs and alcohol, and to make a long story short, found himself in the Oregon State prison system at a pretty young age after several trips to the county jail. He elected to, while he was in prison, get some help, and he, Joe, do you remember the name of the program, Bridges to Change, or something? He got involved in a prison program that was called Bridges to Change, and it was a mentoring program, and he had some success in that and got out of prison, and is now working for that organization, providing the same help that he received when he was in prison. There was another young man with him who was very talented as well, who happened to be have the same story, a little worse. He he spent more time in prison, who was actually now the executive director of that program. So I'm sitting there thinking about the struggle that I and other employers, who I know there's some of you in the room, have had trying to find good help. We have a high unemployment rate, but we also have a lot of employers who are looking for work and looking for help and can't find it. It's quite an anomaly, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, my next store manager could be on the street. And ironically, one of my previous store managers is in prison. I stopped and visited him in Salem about 2 weeks ago. And I'm thinking about how in our community can we try to address this problem? And what are other people doing and how is it successful? So I couldn't help but go back to think about this proposal that I'd seen before and that you're going to see tonight. And we'll get back to the statistics and then we'll get on with the program. So, drug facts. 73% of adults abuse alcohol in any given 30 days. 92% of adults are not addicted but admit to binge drinking. And in Douglas County, that's 52,219 adults in 30 days that admit to binge drinking. Oregon is the 5th highest state for non-medical use of prescription painkillers. That gentleman that used to work for me, who's now sitting in prison, had a painkiller addiction that turned into a heroin addiction, and we've all heard that story many times. The interesting thing to me is it intrigues me when I go into sit down in the prison and visit with somebody like this and talk to them about how they got there, and to have him look at me and say, man, I'm grateful to be here. I never thought I'd hear that from anybody. This guy's grateful to be in prison. And he's taking advantage of the opportunity to take advantage of some of the programs that are available to him in there. And I'm very confident that when he gets out of there, he's going to have a successful life and become a contributing member of society again. But he told me the reason he was grateful is because of the alternative. He was literally on his way to go kill somebody when he got caught. Prison was a great alternative for him. So, again, and I think he's keeping up with me here on the slides, but Oregon reports in 2012 that 99.3% of all crimes are related to drug and alcohol abuse. In community impact, again, 99.3%. I told you you're going to hear that statistic a lot. The Douglas County Jail is functioning an average of 94% capacity. Mike Root is here with us tonight. He's in charge of the operation of the jail, and almost every Monday morning we have a meeting in the Sheriff's Department where a group of the leaders in the department sit down and talk about what's happened over the weekend, what the plans for the week are, and every week Mike gives us a report of how many people we have in jail. And currently, right now in Douglas County, we're talking about doing some things to try to increase our jail capacity because it's full all the time. You have folks from the Downtown Roseburg Association, the local businesses and other places who are constantly complaining about the homeless people that are vandalizing their properties, and why isn't anything being done? Well, the process for that is we write them a citation. They don't pay the citation because they don't have the means to pay for it. They end up with a warrant. We arrest them and put them in jail, and then we turn around and release them because we don't have room to keep them there. And we find out that this system that we have really isn't working. So, jail capacity. One of the things that has been discussed is limiting the number of female inmates to 20 so that we can use the space that is over that for the male population. I think the last time we talked about it, there were 63 female inmates in jail. That means let 43 female inmates out just so we can make room for male inmates. We got to find a solution to the problem. This one was obviously near and dear to me because it speaks of our home, and I'm not sure if we're keeping up here. I hope we are, but the cost of drugs and alcohol abuse in Douglas County. Based on 2008 Eco Northwest report for Oregon, Douglas County is realizing a cost of more than $171.5 million annually. And that does not mean Douglas County, the local government, that means Douglas County geographically, and that includes obviously costs to local government, but also business people, treatment facilities, the money that we're spending as a unit in the county in order to address this issue. The greater Roseburg area estimated at $74 million annually. We got some work to do. So I'm going to, at this point, introduce some friends of mine who I know well. They've been doing this work in the county. Some of you may know, some of you may not, for a very long time, especially dealing with, when I first met them, they were dealing with some of the most troubled male youth in the state of Oregon, taking care of young men who have really been kicked out, I hate to use that term, but of all the other programs, because they were so difficult to deal with that they couldn't deal with them all. I've been a supporter of theirs for a long time. I like this program that they put together. This is a proposal. And my hope is that when you folks have an opportunity to see their vision, that their vision will become your vision. Their vision has become my vision, and we want to share it with you tonight. So with that, I'm going to introduce to you David and Christy Graham.
Wow. Thank you guys for coming. Welcome. We are so excited to share this proposal, this vision with our county. We've been here a little over 18 years and we feel like we're starting to belong. So thank you for welcoming us. We're founders, Christy and I are founders of True North Star Ministries. I'm the chaplain currently at the Douglas County Jail and Douglas County Release Coordinator for Home for Good in Oregon. 18 years ago, a 9-year-old boy came into our lives. And our lives were changed forever. His many mental health diagnoses and extreme negative behaviors changed our lives forever, but for the better too, because that little boy was one of many who could not be placed in typical foster home, and we became a specialized boys ranch for youth who were failing in every placement, including residential treatment. So we opened our home to severely traumatized teen boys who were acting out in really antisocial and harmful behaviors, resulting from abandonment and assault, sexual abuse, even sex trafficking, starvation, many other tragic experiences. The Boys Ranch became boot camp for us. We had much to learn, and there wasn't very much information out there to guide us on how to teach the boys. And so we had to start learning about dealing with core issues. We help run a Celebrate Recovery here in town. It's a great 12-step program, faith-based. But I like their slogan, come deal with your hurts, hang-ups, and habits. And until you deal with the hurts that happen, you're never going to get past the hang-ups and the habits. So we want to talk about the hurts, the core issues, and really how it ties in to the root of addiction. The next 15 years became a desperate quest to understand the cause of entrenched, destructive behaviors, poor choices, negative thought patterns that our boys were manifesting. We were aware of a long history of abuse, and we knew this was a major factor in those core issues. But what we didn't know was how to unlock the addictive patterns and habits and facilitate true healing. The road to understanding in a house full of disillusioned, angry teen boys was very difficult. At one point, my wife Christy thought her life was over, as we knew it. But we kept continuing crying out to to God for help, and he continued to lead us to information. And the information we're about to share with you was so new, it hadn't really been widely publicized yet. There were two vital discoveries in the field of neuroscience that were just coming to light in 1999, and they hadn't yet been recognized or adopted by healthcare professionals. And these two discoveries in brain science have launched new and revolutionary standards of best practices for mental, emotional, and physical health in our nation and around the world. So let's talk about the first one, adverse childhood experiences. One of these discoveries was the ACE study by Dr. Vincent Felitti and Dr. Robert Anda. It was one of the largest investigations ever conducted to assess associations between child abuse and how it impacts adult health and well-being. We were privileged to meet and talk to Dr. Vincent Felitti at a symposium in Eugene, where he was sharing the results of this groundbreaking research. And what the ACE study did was give us a better understanding about the lives of hundreds of millions of people around the world who use coping methods such as alcohol and drugs as a way to escape chronic fear, anxiety, depression, and anger that are the after effects of ACE, adverse childhood experiences. So the question was no longer, what's wrong with you? But the question became, what happened to you when you were a child? So we'd like to share a clip that gives a quick overview of those findings by Dr. Anda.
Study did is it sought to take a look at how childhood experiences influence neurodevelopment, the adoption of health risk behaviors and risk factors for preventable diseases. We looked at 10 categories of adverse childhood experience. We looked at abuse, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, childhood neglect, that included physical and emotional neglect, and what we call household dysfunction, which was growing up in households where there's mentally ill caregivers or mentally ill people in the home, household substance abuse, domestic violence, parental separation, divorce, or criminal behavior in the house. So those are the 10 categories of experiences that we call adversity. And what we found when we studied them is that they're really common. And the second thing we found is that when there's one of those types of experiences in the life of a child, that there tends to be multiple others. So they're common, they're highly interrelated, they co-occur. And the third thing that we found is if you add up the number of categories of experience, that there's this cumulative impact of the experiences on the risk of public health problems. And many of the leading causes of death in the United States are somehow associated with ACEs, things like stroke, diabetes, risk factors for HIV, AIDS, cancers, and behaviors that lead to those. We found that people who have high levels of adversity in their lives tend to die younger, so it causes premature mortality. And in terms of morbidity, probably the greatest impact on morbidity is in the area of substance abuse and mental health. I think it's very safe to say that ACEs are a leading cause of both mental health and substance abuse, and everywhere this has been studied, there's this very powerful relationship between childhood adversity, mental health problems of various sorts, and substance abuse problems of various sorts. At this point in time, the way states can use the ACEs surveillance data, I think, is to point out that these problems, the mental health and substance abuse problems that are so prevalent, are largely preventable, that they're not necessarily destiny or genetics, they have genetic components, that many of those problems are very experientially oriented, that the traumatic stress of abuse and neglect and other ACEs affect neurodevelopment in a way that leads to mental health and substance abuse problems. So I think the major thing is to say that much of what happens in mental health and substance abuse can be prevented if we can reduce the level of stress in children's lives.
How Help me welcome my beautiful wife and incredible wife.
I love this clip because he ends by saying that this is preventable. And we thought, yes, we're going to prevent child abuse. We're going to work with kids. And what we found out is that as good as it is and as necessary and vital as it is to work with children, that doesn't stop child abuse. And so we wanted to really go to the heart of the matter and get this thing to the curb and put a stop to it. So what you heard, just to summarize the ACE study findings, adverse childhood experiences were found to be the leading cause of substance abuse, mental health issues, violence and criminality, promiscuity, depression and anxiety, severe obesity, and a 48% greater likelihood of contracting cancer. Everybody here knows somebody that's had cancer, or has cancer, is battling cancer, or overcoming cancer. Child abuse was found to be the leading cause of suicide, as well as an average of a 20-year reduction in lifespan. It's important to note that of the 17,400 adults who participated in the study, 80% were white, they were middle class, middle-aged, 74% were college educated. Since they were members of Kaiser Permanente, they all had jobs and great health care. So this quashes the perception that ACEs are related to socioeconomic circumstances or minority status. So this is a snapshot of the ACE findings as they relate to substance abuse. The results of the ACE data was mind-boggling. First, they discovered a direct link between childhood trauma and adult mental illness, chronic disease, substance abuse, incarceration, work issues like absenteeism. Second, 2/3 of the study participants had experienced some form of child abuse. 2/3 had been abused as a child. Of those, 87% had experienced more than one form of abuse. So this showed that when there was one area of abuse, there tends to be multiple others. For example, people who had an alcoholic father were likely to have also experienced physical abuse or verbal abuse or both. Third, the more ACEs, the more dramatic the risks of medical, mental, and social problems as an adult. Things started to get serious around an ACE score of 4 or more. These participants were twice as likely to be smokers, 7 times more likely to be alcoholic, 10 times more likely to have injected street drugs, 12 times more likely to have attempted suicide. 1 in 6 people had an ACE score of 4 or more. 1 in 9 had an ACE score of 5 or more. People with high ACE scores are more likely to be violent, to have more marriages, more broken bones, more drug prescriptions, more depression, more autoimmune diseases, and more work absences. Dr. Anda says, the ACE study has opened our eyes to see the truth of the landscape. ACEs create a chronic public health disaster that until recently has been hidden by our limited vision. Now we see that the biologic impacts of ACEs transcend the traditional boundaries of our health and human service systems. Children affected by ACEs appear in all human service systems throughout their lifetime, from childhood to adulthood, as clients with behavioral, learning, social, criminal, and chronic health problems. Public health experts, social service workers, educators, therapists, and policymakers all see addictions as a problem. But it's important to understand that turning to drugs or alcohol is a normal response to childhood adverse experiences. Serious childhood trauma. We can no longer allow our most valuable resource, our sons, our grandsons, our nephews, our brothers, our fathers, our neighbors, and our co-workers to be reduced to a substance abuse or crime statistic. I'm not leaving out the women in this picture, but for the purposes of this proposal, we are focusing first on the men, because we have 3 times the number of men who are requiring assistance as there are women. And studies are showing us that aid to the children does not change the child abuse results. Aid to the women does not significantly impact the child abuse or the substance abuse statistics, but aid to men changes everything. Recognizing the effects of trauma is key to improving prevention methods and recovery outcomes. So now that we know the root of addictions, it's nearly always some form of child abandonment, neglect, or maltreatment. We need to now know how to stop the cycle of defeat that begins with being a victim of child abuse and ends in hopelessness, poverty, lack of education, substance abuse, sickness, homelessness, joblessness, mental illness, and even becoming an abuser. The newest revelation in late-breaking science is called neuroplasticity. You can all say, I am a neuroplastician. Ready? I am a neuroplastician. Yeah. What that means is that the human brain is changeable, and that we have the power to actually change our behaviors by changing our brains. So let's watch this clip.
Until very recently, our best and brightest scientists and physicians believed that the adult brain couldn't change. Our brain circuits were formed and finalized in childhood. Now we discover that the brain is plastic, meaning changeable, but not all change is good. That changing brain can actually do us harm. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and even schizophrenia. But the mind can harness the damaged brain's plasticity to change itself. And now we are finding new treatments for mental diseases and disorders once thought incurable.
When you would tell people, hey, this is your brain sending you a false message, it would help them.
We might actually change the whole course, the whole trajectory of someone's life.
This is medicine. This has outcomes that are medical. It changes brains physically. It changes them chemically. It changes them functionally.
We do not yet see where the limits will be. There are still big new surprises.
My name is Dr. Norman Deutsch, and I wrote a book called The Brain That Changes Itself. The discovery of neuroplasticity is the discovery that our brains can change their structure and function through mental experience alone. It signals the most important change in our understanding of the brain in 400 years, because for 400 years we thought of the brain as though it were like a machine with parts, and that view of the machine-like brain gave rise to a neurological fatalism, because it meant people who were born with brain damage or who sustained brain damage as they developed were condemned to live with it, because machines do many glorious things, but they don't grow new parts, and they can't reorganize themselves.
How do y'all like good news? My favorite scripture as a pastor is that we can renew our minds. And brain science is showing that. And that's exciting. That's really exciting. So we want to share a little bit of our proposal to you. You each are going to get a copy of the proposal when we're finished here. The good news is that breakthroughs in neuroscience are empowering people to overcome their past. That's good news. There's fresh hope. Transformation is not only possible, it's predictable, with outcomes that are measurable. Let's go to slide 17, Jeremy. I want to show you, we'll tell you a little bit about Triple R Ranch that we are proposing. It's long-term, faith-based residential recovery for Douglas County substance abuse offenders. We have an artist sketch here that I think is really, really cool. proposing to fill a significant gap in long-term recovery options for men in Douglas County who are overcoming substance abuse and other negative behaviors. True North Star is proposing to administrate an effective faith-based long-term treatment and rehabilitation program for men utilizing the most current research in brain science and trauma-informed care. So let's talk about critical components to effective recovery. We found that the number one factor for overcome substance abuse is faith in God, who loves and heals and gives purpose to life. Only God can transcend the abuse to rescue, redeem, and restore. Triple R. The true identity that God has given. So, the first key component is its faith-based, which brings healing and purpose. Other critical factors are housing and safety, employment, which gives hope, and mentoring, trauma-informed, ongoing, 24/7 support. And probably the most critical, and you've heard it over and over, the time. Long-term residential treatment, 2 years of intensive aftercare. I've been in the recovery and addiction ministry for over 30 years. 90 days, and especially 28 days, doesn't even allow the person to be able to start thinking clearly yet. And so that consistency of allowing them to work through their things while their brain starts to start understanding some of the things that they've been through. These 5 components are so important for maximum effectiveness from any intervention. We work with ADAPT. Many of our guys have gone through ADAPT. And it's wonderful because they get that fresh start to be able to maintain and continue in their recovery. We found out that it's been effective to use Buckley House as a place to send men up to prepare them for recovery. So all of these components working together, so many of you that are here in this room are so important. We have to do this as a community. Amen? We have to. Long-term residential treatment as a 1-year program is about 1-on-4 intensive trauma-informed care and mentoring, ACE education and Triumph Over Trauma curriculum, faith-based 12-step recovery. We included horse relational therapy. My daughter-in-law is a horse trainer, and we used that at the ranch. And we saw incredible outcomes with our boys. Life skills and GED education, vocational training. So it's about changing lives through intensive aftercare. A 2-year program. The 2-year intensive aftercare is a phase 1 of our model, is foundational to the success of the proposed long-term men's recovery center. In order for men to stay clean and sober, they must be given the opportunity to improve their lives in immediate and tangible ways following graduation. We submit that ongoing relational mentoring by trained trauma-informed mentors is critical to support men that are re-entering the real world. Sober living, housing, and jobs are also critical to the successful transition of men graduating from residential treatment. It's our plan to have the intensive aftercare program fully operational prior to opening the recovery center. So here's the key components to intensive aftercare. Trauma-informed mentoring, sober living houses, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual support, transportation, job search and placement support, vocational rehab and apprenticeships, education assistance, and resource referrals.
So phase 1, 2016, we've begun. This is called our mentor-intern training. Kind of starting from the back end. We're beginning with the end and working forward. Phase 1 is where we are today, and our proposal to the community begins with training mentors in trauma-informed care. We've developed a training curriculum that will equip men to eventually staff the RRR Ranch Men's Recovery Center when it's up and running. We want to hire 8 men and provide them a salaried, hands-on, 1 to 2 year field assignment where each intern will mentor 10 men in the community who are in recovery under the guidance of an experienced trauma-informed recovery mentor. We believe this is a win-win scenario. So the outcomes and the impact for us in this community will be that this mentor training program will fund 20 full-time jobs and 3 part-time jobs. It will train 16 trauma-informed mentors who then support 160 men in recovery with 24/7 trauma-informed care over the next 2 years. The cost is $750,000 a year. That works out to be just $25 a day per man in recovery. It doesn't get any less expensive than that. So phase 1, 2018, plans for the community build. We hope to be ready to begin construction of the RRR Ranch Men's Recovery Center in the spring of 2018. We are entering the site location, capital campaign, and design phase right now in preparation for a community build in 2018. We've invited our friend and advisor, Rush Benke from Arc Built Construction, to share the vision that we have for an extreme build here in Roseburg. Rush was the lead contractor for Extreme Makeover Home Edition's 200th build in Medford in 2011. And he has many other extreme builds under his belt. He just got back from doing one. Bulgaria?
Actually, we're
In Kona. Okay, well, that's a big one there. So we met Rush and shared the vision that we had for this, and he said, you know, dude, have you ever heard of Extreme Makeover Home Edition? I said, yeah. He said, well, let me talk to you about that. And as we talked, we just felt a deep impression that Roseburg could do this. And so will you help me welcome Rush Benke?
I didn't prepare anything to read, but I'm going to tell you a few stories. How many of you have watched the show Extreme Makeover Home Edition? And were any of you involved in the Medford build in 2011? Here, sometimes I find people involved. We had 3,088 volunteers, and in 5.5 days, we built a $2 million, 4,000 square foot home. Right there in Jackson County. I'm just thinking about a time, 20 minutes from the time in which we had to have the house ready. We had 5.5 days, the clock's ticking. There's still work going on. We're supposed to turn the keys over to the design team so that they can do the interior decorating, set furniture, hang paintings, and all that sort of thing. And everyone is just scrambling. There's painting going on. There's carpenters cutting trim and putting up the last piece of the trim. And when that 20 minutes was finished, we were ready to turn the keys over. It was just so choreographed that it was amazing. I had the privilege of leading Jackson County in one of the most successful builds in 9 years. We actually completed the project, which almost never happens on an extreme show. I believe one of the reasons why Extreme Makeover Home Edition is no longer being aired is because it really is an illusion, it's a lie. All the actors that act out that they're doing things to make the build happen, they really are actors. And the community are the people on the ground that do all the work. And that's the truth in the matter. One of the things that Extreme Makeover Home Edition did for our community is they brought a model that works. And of course, the sell point is really big. You get to be involved with a Hollywood production and build a movie set. And there's this show that's produced. And I don't know, probably by today's date, there's probably somewhere close to 1 billion people, we're talking 1/7 of the world's population, that have seen that show. It airs in almost every country you can think of in the world that has television and that capability. Matt Sampson, Sparrow Clubs, was featured in that show. Matt Sampson still gets emails from different countries, people asking, how can we start a Sparrow Club in our country, in our community? And so we know that it's just popping around from country to country still after all this time. I am a small residential builder. I build one-of-a-kind custom homes and have had the privilege of designing most of those homes over the years. And in 2008, we all know that our area was hit severely with a really down economy, expected builders in an extreme sort of way. And I basically found myself in 2009 with not a whole lot to do, and I'd always talked about giving back to the community. I got involved with Hearts with a Mission. Hearts with a Mission, they had a vision to build a house with 18 beds to have a place for homeless teenagers to come spend the night, and in some cases up to 90 to 120 days. I asked myself the question as I got involved with that, can we as a community ignore the need for housing for these teens and for rehabilitation? And right now, today, Kevin Lamson, the one who is the executive director who started that, who had the vision for it, and I remember it started out with a vision similar to Dave and Christie's. Today they are leading a program called Safe Families, and the state of Oregon is thinking about adopting it with their, is it DHS program, because they've had so many failures and it's not working. They're looking to see what they're doing. They're having such an incredible success ratio of children being placed successfully in foster homes and being adopted and having lives that are beginning to look like something. So anyway, getting involved with that project, we were 6 months. We had $20,000 when we started. And the board of directors, I was a vice president, and I was also chair of the build committee. And I asked Kevin, I said, can we have a board meeting? And just an emergency board meeting. I think I've got something I want to share. And I just told the board, I said, you know, we've had $20,000 for almost a year now. It goes up and down and it never changes. I said, why don't we next week on Monday, why don't we start the project? And that's when the community came and showed up. So it was when leaders said, and I see a lot of leaders in this room. I think there's a lot of you who are involved in leadership in some way or another. When they take up a cause and they say, let's go do something for our community that we need to do, things can happen, and they did. We saw what I consider to be miracles happening on a daily basis. And in 6 months, we built a $750,000 facility. It was completely paid for by the community. And there was so much sweat equity. And that's the second thing I wanted to bring up to you. Communities can do amazing things, but they do it best when you enfranchise the community. And the success of Hearts with a Mission was because there were so many people that came out and put in sweat equity. There were little old ladies that gave $7 for a piece of plywood. And my mother, who lives in Portland, she bought a door, and they were selling doors for each one of the rooms, and they put plaques up in memory of someone. And so my youngest brother, he ended up living on the street part of his life and died young. And my mother was able to contribute $200 to buy a really nice door for one of the bedrooms, and has that plaque. And now, 7 years later, 8 years later, she sends more money now than she ever did before, and she's only been there one time. And she doesn't know all the ministry that takes place there and how it changes lives. But I'm telling you guys, when communities get together, some powerful things can happen. And we're not talking, the success of that project right there is the success of the potential of a community. The potential of the community is not a few people writing big checks. The potential of the community is found in everyone sharing in the burden and the need that is in that community in some tangible way, given the ability to be involved in making change. And I think that's kind of what we've forgotten as Americans. I got to experience a rare thing. Less than 200 builders in the United States ever got to manage an extreme makeover home edition. Like I said, we had 3,088 volunteers. We had over 500 tradesmen involved in that project. Hundreds of businesses. It was truly the show of a community. But they showed up to, the hype of Hollywood, thinking that Hollywood was doing everything, when in fact it was our community. I had 9 weeks to put together a management team, and we had layers and layers of management that covered all of the bases. And like I said, we had one of the most successful builds in the history of the show, right there in Bedford, Oregon. To be a part of that, it changes you. And I know guns are not fun to talk about. There's something a little, one of the things I like to mention about, think about an elephant, an elephant that's in a rage, that's killing people, and you've got to bring that elephant down. You're not gonna get a BB gun out, or a bunch of BB guns out. You're gonna get an elephant gun, right? You're gonna take down this beast with a gun that's appropriate. It's an illustration of a community that's focused. The potential of a community. Think about the shell that, the bullet is the potential of a community going down a barrel aimed at that target. And the community is all behind, part of that powder charge, the potential of that weapon to do what it does. And if you got a lot of people in the whole community in Douglas County they've all got their BB gun, they're shooting their little BBs at the bees, it's not going to have any effect at all. But it's when a community comes together to do something that things really happen. I believe that everyone here tonight, every part of your life, everything that you've experienced in your lifetime tonight is part of what you're hearing. Part of is about part of this message. Every experience you've had has brought you to this moment. To have the ability to make a change in Douglas County. I would be willing to help. Do we have any building contractors in the room? Any tradesmen in the room? Ex-building contractors in the room? Okay. I guess I'm the only general contractor in the room. That's unusual. But, usually a project like I was involved with takes 10 months to do. We had such a turnout from the community. It's all about Hollywood, and honestly, it's a lie, because the community can get everything. Your community can take care of this problem. You have the potential to do it. You have to be organized. You have to be dedicated to something. I think that what Dave and Christy Graham are proposing is a great proposal. It's not the only thing that will help, but it certainly can make a huge contribution to changing things in Douglas County. And I'm no professional in that, but they are. And my expertise is building. Like I said, I'm a small residential contractor who, because I got involved with community projects, had one of the largest opportunities. It's like winning the Super Bowl to build an extreme makeover home. And since then, I've been involved with things in different parts of the world, in Nigeria, in Kona, Hawaii, and other places. And I just carry a message. The message is, you're the community that can make the difference. What's changed your community so far to make a difference in this? You saw the numbers, the statistics. It's you guys. Don't abdicate your responsibility.
In peace or disaster, Lord, let our homes be a place where we find joy in serving others. And your love still shines though the days be darkened by sin. Bring us together as one to sing. Bring us together to serve those in need. Bring us together to love, that the world may know your Son. Bring us together as one in harmony. Lord, help us to always place our hope and trust in you. We want to see you and not our past sins. Lead us through your word, take all our anxieties. Bring us together as one to sing. Bring us together to serve those in need. Bring us together to love, that the world may know your Son. Bring us together as one harmony.
I just wanted to speak about, notice the credits in this, and then there's going to be a sped up version of the house being built. Watch day night, what happens in just a couple of days. Now it's getting dark. Keep going. Called the human anthill.
Look at all those participants, look at the businesses, that's a huge list.
Yeah, so one last comment about that, I was just thinking about, most of these companies
Lord, help us to
are competing businesses, and And here they all working together, rolling up their sleeves, working together to accomplish something that's unimaginable. We saw people who were, they were arch enemies in business, concrete people, and working together side by side, realizing the talent within the other companies, and commented about what the other guys could do. And I had a $100 million company, Adroit Construction, that was doing the finish work for the house. They were in charge of all the finish work. We had almost every large construction company in the valley that was working, and a lot of people were wondering why I was chosen to lead this, and it's only because I was doing projects that involved community, and I learned how to work with community and enfranchise people. I was just giving the empowerment model to people, saying, Adroit Construction, you guys do $100 million a year in construction. Wow, you guys would make great finish leads, and so we'll just give that to you. And here's the list of what you got to do. Just empowering people to do what they already do. So a beautiful thing, community coming together.
My name is Jeremy Graman. I am a pastor with True North Star Ministries and the head mentor and one of the facilitators to be working with and doing this. And so I want to invite actually a few of the guys up that we've been working with. And so if I could have Michael and Paul and Seth and Jeremy, why don't you guys come on up? These men are men that we have come alongside. Some we've just known in the last year. Some we've been walking with for a couple years. And I'd like them to just give a couple sentences about what transformation like this looks like in their life and how it has changed. And so I'm going to let Paul get started. You want to step over?
Well, my name is Paul Edwards. Just want to say the ACEs test that they were talking about, I scored almost every single one except for one. And by the glory of God, I'm standing here in front of you guys 3 years clean. These amazing people right here in my life right now, I don't know where I would be, actually. They mentored me, Jeremy's mentored me through, and he still is. I'm overcoming a lot of stuff, but I'm just thankful to be a part of these guys' life, and everything that they're doing is changing my life. And my kids' life, too. I guess that's all I got.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michael Sidrian, and I too am going to be 4 years clean and sober this year. I came here from California, and I was addicted to methamphetamines. I ended up in prison, and I thank God for that, because that's what finally got me clean and sober. When I was getting out, I'm not from here, but I was mandated to stay here. When I was getting out, I didn't have any place to go. I didn't know anybody here, no family here. And one day out of prison, I met Dave. He picked us up, a bunch of guys from the House of Restoration. That is a clean and sober living home, and luckily I met up with a bunch of good guys there that had some clean and sober time in front of me. When I met them, I started doing their ministry, and they took me in like I was one of their own. With the help of them, Divine Home Furnishings, where I got a job, that's where we used to do the ministry. The House of Restoration, Access to Recovery, which is no longer around. Dawn Fox, she helped me with a bus pass, clothing, You Can, and Celebrate Recovery. Without all these people in my life, I don't know where I would have ended up. So I can tell you, just to be able to get us all under one roof, if you can have all of this under one roof, because these people were spread out. And I really am lucky to have gotten in touch with all these people, but who knows what I would have been if I didn't hook up with them. So I am definitely and going to be involved with their ministry from here on out, and also anything that they do I've been with Celebrate Recovery for about 3 years, and I'm a team leader over there. Since then, we've been praying about it, and we opened up 2 more Celebrate Recoveries here in Douglas County. That is huge. You have no idea. I mean, a lot of these people that have no place to go, they turn to God, but there's no place for them anywhere. I mean, a lot of them feel unwanted at the churches that they attend. This, to overcome their hurts, habits, and hang-ups is a big success and a 12-step. So I'm on board, and I just want to thank you for letting me speak.
All right.
How y'all doing? My name is Seth Osborne. I've been involved, I feel like my accent's really thick in this one. I've been involved with True North Star Ministries for almost 3 years now. I'm coming up on a year, clean and sober. I'm from Georgia, if you can't tell. I moved over here in 2012 after the suicide of my father. I didn't really have a troubled childhood or anything like that, but at 22 years old that happened, and it kind of it threw me in this huge downward spiral. I got addicted to methamphetamines and heroin, pain pills. Well, I ended up in Oregon because I have family here, and my mom wanted to do the zip code therapy, which doesn't really work out for people. But I ended up here in Oregon, and after getting in some trouble here in Oregon as well, I became involved with the Josephine County Parole and Probation, and then I became involved with the Douglas County Parole and Probation, and now it's just Douglas County, so. But the last time that I went to jail, that I got in any trouble, I got desperate, and I heard about Dave Grammon, who was or Chaplain Dave at that time. And I reached out. I was really desperate, and I reached out to him, and they were there, that's for sure. I met Dave and explained to him my aspirations of just wanting to be a better person and wanting to further my relationship with God. I even told him 3 years ago, I said, man, I really feel like I want to be a drug and alcohol counselor. So I went to treatment. Long story short, I ended up back here in 30 days because of a broken wrist. And the whole thing that changed my mentality about my addiction and the life that I've been living is they started creating these opportunities for me to be successful just in small things. It wasn't even anything real big, but after so long of failing, you lose your self-esteem. So, and I've learned, because I'm now a full-time student at UCC, to be a drug and alcohol counselor. I learned that through success is how we build self-esteem. So I mean, just them giving me these opportunities for these small successes led me to this place where I realized that I can now recognize what success looks like. I can now recognize steps that I need to take in order to be successful myself. And that's just the way that they work in their ministry, is by opening men's eyes up to see, there is another choice that you can make. No matter how many times you've made that wrong decision, it's never too late to start making the right one. And I'm blessed to have met them, and I'm so blessed that y'all came out tonight. I know it's St. Patrick's Day, so I just appreciate y'all being here. Thank you.
My name is Jeremy Grogan. I was told once that I was a treasure. I was like a treasure hidden in the field, and then there was a man that went and bought that field, just had the treasure. And I feel that the Grammon family and everything that they stand for is completely and totally sold out for the benefit of the lives of other people. And so I'm going to share something that I don't even think some of the closest people to me know. One thing is, I'm 35 right now, and when I was about 16, I came to a crossroads in my childhood where I had the opportunity to escape a very short-term meth addiction, where I had faced my whole future as a 15 or 16-year-old and made some choices to leave that environment. But what happened was that addiction followed through later in life, after and during the military, in the form of alcohol. Well, I would have thought that I had a handle on that in my life. What turned out was it really started to take control after I ended my service. I had an honorable discharge, and it was difficult working in civilian life. But what's interesting and what people don't know about me is I was on a track for a Master's in Business Administration with an emphasis in organizational leadership and management. And that was a passion of mine through like a secret passion. And I was on that track, and that track got disrupted because my alcoholism had completely peaked. It got to the point where it was no way to hide it anymore. I had lost a job with an insurance company. I lost my home. I lost nearly all my possessions. I lost a marriage. I lost visitations with my children, and came to pretty much a total collapse. And so here's a guy that was on his way to work in business, and here I am faced with literally nothing. And over the years, I've been kicked out. I'm actually one of the guys that's been kicked out of multiple different recovery homes. I've gone to detox many times. I went through an inpatient facility. And every one of these type of groups, there was a limit that I could hit, that they were done. And what I found is that the true love that comes from this program and from these people doesn't end, and that right there is the thing that got me to be able to completely move forward and heal. It was I'm gonna do this my way, and I feel like I've kind of let people down, and then they come back and their response isn't, condemnation. It's love, and it's how can we work and walk together. So if I have anything to say about what has worked for me, it's this mentorship in the program, and it's about people, they cease to give up on me in spite of my many attempts to give up on myself. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. All that being said, what we really want to do is partner together. We want to partner with you. We want to partner with the established recovery programs that are already out there that are helping, and some of them that are helping provide housing, helping provide resources. And so we believe that investing in the lives of men in our community, working hand in hand with you, will turn our community around. And here's why that works, is because every single one of these men is already paying it forward. They're already coming alongside other men. They're already coming alongside saying, I'm ready to put myself into, I want another person to experience the level of freedom I have. I want another person to be able to experience sobriety like I have. I want another person to have a successful marriage and be able to parent their children the right way. I want to be able to educate people who otherwise were uneducated and pay this very thing forward. And we know this works. We know this works. We've gotten to see it now over and over, and this is what transforms a community. Collectively, we have the answers together. We have brilliant minds represented in this room, and God has created our minds to be able to solve problems, to create resolutions. The skills, the resources, we have the passion, we have the commitment to reestablish Douglas County, and with us working together, we can see rapid, positive transformation that escalates as hope continues to spread. So we want to link arms with programs like ADAPT and HUD and UCAN and DHS, parole and probation, and we're in some small levels, we're already doing that, but we want to do it on a much grander level. We want to partner with local business and the faith community to fill the gaps where funding and manpower ends. In this room represented here, roughly, it's costing the people represented in this room almost $300,000 to support something that is not changing recidivism. It's not changing, it's not dropping the level of people getting into addiction or having recurring addictions. It's not really solving the problem. We're doing a lot of cleanup. We're doing a lot of a little this here and a little that there, and we truly believe that when you put these pieces together and when you can bring the long-term effects of it into place, that's where true transformation can come. That's where true movement in the community can come. The good news is that there's a proven 7-to-1 benefit to cost ratio for providing long-term treatment options. 7-to-1. So today we are asking you to partner with us, and we're telling you what we need is, for the first part of this program, is $750,000 a year over the next 2 years to implement this plan. And that translates into a $5.25 million cost benefit to Douglas County each year that we're in operation. So what happens if we do this together? What happens if this group of people in here don't just leave this building and say, well, that was a lot of good information, and man, I applaud them, well done, good job, thumbs up, keep going. But what if instead we did something extreme for our community? Yeah. What if we decided that Douglas County could be something completely different than the state of Oregon or this nation is seeing right now? And I really think that we represented a flavor of what Douglas County is on October 1st. Yes. When we saw our community rally together. Talk about the bullet. Talk about what the potential of our community can do. Yeah. We had a list just as long of people and representatives that showed up at the fairgrounds with food and resources and transportation at the drop of a hat. Most without even being asked. They didn't have a Hollywood video. They didn't have a person out there recording every good deed that had been done. But let me tell you, as a pastor, I was there. I spent the entire day there, ministering to families, praying with those that had lost loved ones. And I was blown away by what I saw my community do. Yeah. And I believe that the time is right now for greater transformation in Douglas County. I believe that Douglas County set a precedence on how to handle mental illness and how to handle extreme tragedy. And I'm proud of my community, and I'm proud to be a member of it. So what if we did this? Well, the reality of it is that we can't afford to keep doing it the way that we've been doing it, and it's not being effective the way it needs to. The cost in human lives is escalating, and the reality of increasing levels of child abuse and on with substance abuse, both drug and alcohol, will continue unless we act to stop the addiction cycle. It's estimated that there are close to 7,900 men in Douglas County needing treatment, and we only have about 12 to 15 beds available for a 90-day stay. I want to just kind of close up with this. When men are supported and healthy, it changes the entire family unit. It supports the family. It supports, these men are already paying it forward into other men. Not all these guys have families. Some of them are building families. But they immediately are building a community even within themselves, in the Celebrate Recovery communities, in the clean and sober living houses. They're building it and they're paying forward the very things that they're getting so that other men can have success. You guys, I've got handfuls and handfuls of men with stories, just like what you heard today. So we can't really put a price on human lives, and I think the most valuable asset in our community is people. And we have come to stand alongside men and to walk them through the hard things, the painful things in life, so that we can stop the cycles of abuse, stop the cycles of addiction, stop the cycles of criminal acting, and bring transformation. So what we'd like you to do, Chris, go ahead.
thank you guys all for being very patient. I promise we're gonna get chatting here in just a few minutes, but while I'm talking here, I'm gonna have these guys hand out a copy of the proposal and all the information that we went over tonight. And inside that pamphlet, there's a card in there that I hope you can fill out and leave with us
It's
before
in
we
the
go
bag,
home.
it's green.
So it's a green card, by the way, happy St. Patrick's Day. The green card in the back, I hope you'll fill out and leave with us before you go home. There's some information on there about how you can help. We honestly had no idea who to expect might show up tonight. I'm overwhelmed by the amount of you who did. But in reality, there could be a person in this room who has the land that they want to donate for this vision. There could be someone in the room who wants to write a check for $250,000, I don't know. There could be some people who have an ability to help write grants. There could be people in this room who want to join with me in supporting this effort and provide some level or some contribution to this effort. And we want to be able to find out who those people are. We hope that you'll share this vision with your friends. And I have a few things that I wanted to add. So, what we're dealing with here is a snowball effect, and you can see it happen. You see where this is not a Democrat problem, it's not a Republican problem, it's not a conservative problem, it's not a liberal problem. And none of those solutions provided by those individual groups of people that I just mentioned are really workable solutions either. You hear the conservative mantra, well, you made bad choices in your life, and now you got to deal with the consequences. You need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get back to work. You hear the liberal point of view where they say these people need help. We need to help these folks. There's the argument between the hand up and the hand out. And the reality of it is, folks, some of these people really have no choice about the environment that they're born into.
Right.
And people are molded from the day that they're born until they're approximately 25 years old and beyond. And these lives are being shaped in environments where they had no choice about being born into. And the people who are born into those situations and grow up with these problems then have children of their own who have issues as children, and we've got a snowball effect. And I believe that by starting with helping men who can in turn raise their children right, and then help other men who can raise their children right, and we can reduce the number of fatherless children in our community, and we can reduce the number of divorces in our community, and we can start building the family unit back together the way that God intended for it to be, we can see success. So I hope, again, that you will fill those out, leave us some information, let us know how you can help. There's some folks in the room that I wanted to mention specifically. I know that there's a lot of folks in the room who deal with this on a daily basis, but some folks that I know of particularly that I work with on a regular basis that I'm grateful for showing up today. Senator Jeff Cruz, Judge Garrison was here, the Chief of Police Jim Burge and his wife Judge Burge, Joe Garcia from Parole and Probation was here and had to leave. Lieutenant Mike Root, I appreciate what you do, runs the Douglas County Jail for us. Our district attorney right here, Rick Wiesenberg, Fire Chief, Fire District 2, Greg Marlar, Gary Leaf, candidate for County Commissioner. Not sure if he really knows what he's getting himself into. And City Manager Lance Colley was here tonight. I appreciate all of them coming. Many more of you in the room care about what we're talking about tonight, contribute to this solution on a daily basis. I thank you for the effort. The fellow camps, I've been hearing about you on the radio. Congratulations. By the way, I'm up to 8 gallons of milk a week now. Just I sat down at a meal the other night with my kids, and it was at the end of the meal, and I've got this empty gallon of unclogged milk sitting on the table, and I was thinking, I could have swore I just heard my wife ask the kids to go get another gallon of milk out of the fridge. And so I said, didn't you just ask them to go get a gallon of milk? And she said, that's it. So I drank a whole gallon of milk in one meal. So anyway, thank you guys so much for coming. Please make sure that you fill out those contacts cards. Let us know how we can get a hold of you in the future. I'm going to let the Grammons answer any questions that you might have before we go home. I hope you'll take advantage of the food in the back, and thank you, the ladies who helped prepare that.
Yes,
today. many of us to go home. So once again, these folks have been working hard doing this work in our community for a long time. This work has really just begun. We have a long ways to go, and I hope you'll give me a clap with me for just a minute to thank them for their efforts.
So McMenamins has given us a $50 gift certificate for a drawing for dinner. We're going to do it from the green sheet. So if you took a proposal and you fill out a green sheet and you leave it with us tonight, you just might end up with dinner at McMenamins.
Right.